Alright, so update on the list. There's two lists that I've been playing recently. I prefer this one, the black-green version. I'll go through some of this stuff. So most of this core stuff here, the baubles, shredders, lanterns, needles, Pixis, cookbook, bridge, pretty standard. I swapped out Grafdigger's Cage from the main for Soul Guide Lantern. The reasoning is that Soul Guide Lantern is better against Living End, which I saw have an uptick, and I did have a living an opponent use Leyline of Sanctity. Um, so um, mana base is generally this, that fetch mana base that I posted about in my last update. Um, Still the 7 discard spells, 3 Duress instead of Inquisition because of cards like Karn the Great Creator, the One Ring, Leyline Binding. 3 Assassin's Trophy as a catch-all. Um, Another change that I did was I went with 3 Profane Tutor, 3 Stirrings. The reasoning why is because of the data, and I'll go through it right here. So according to our data, Profane Tutor, we have a slight drop when it's in the opening hand. Same with Stirrings, but when going to 2 Profane Tutor in hand, it's a much, much steeper drop. It's much worse. We go to 25% win rate out of 16 games, which is not great. So it looks like the first Stirrings is better than the second Tutor. So I decided 3 and 3 is a fair split. They're about equal in the lowered win rate. Let's see. Okay, so that's the reasoning behind the main list. The sideboard, I just moved the Grafdigger's Cage to the side and swapping it with the Soul Guide Lantern. Stone of Eric is still there. Cursed Totem, Damping Sphere for the Amulet Titan and the Tron matchups. Terra Sunder. Oh, Damping Sphere is also good for the Coffers matchup. Terra Sunder, because it's good against the hammer and whatnot scales, but specifically because it's better against ring decks. It still takes care of Leyline Binding, and it's even good against the Karn the Great Creator and Shieldred lists. Necromentia is also for the Amulet and Tron matchups, and random matchups that it might be good against, but those are the main ideas. Leyline is mostly for, it's decent for Zoo, mostly there for burn though. Emrakul is like a trump card against Mill, just a one of, and they have a real hard time beating us with a one Emrakul on the deck because we just discard all of their exile effects, and then we use the Lantern combo to make it so they can't draw exile effects. And from there, they cannot beat an Emrakul in the deck. And if we draw it, we can either Thoughtseize ourselves or discard it to Cookbook, and we're fine. And we just kill them with Urza Sagas, or mill them to death, whichever. For the Whir version, here's that. Yeah. It's the 4 trophies instead of 3. That's questionable. I go with an extra artifact, the Gold Color's Bell, and the reasoning why is because we are heavily reliant on Glimmer Voids and Spire of Industry, so that I wanted an extra artifact to make sure that we can turn those into actual mana-producing lands. And then a lot of the sideboard is about the same. A big difference though is it's a Witchbane Orb instead of one of the ley lines, so that I can work for the Witchbane Orb. The rest of it, oh yeah, the Grafdigger's Cage and Soul Guide Lantern, I actually swapped those. I'm sorry, but the rest of it's about the same. So data work, still working on that. Opening hands with Bridge, Bauble, Trophy, Lantern, Saga, of course, are all very, very good. Gardens is pretty good too, apparently. And then early discard, Leyline being one of our better sideboard cards, Needle. And there's slight decreases when you have multiples, but like if you look at the Bridge decrease, we're still at a 56% win rate with 2 bridges. So it is a decrease from, I think it's like 70 some odd, no, 64% over 312 games. Um, but some of the other ones, it drops pretty quick. Assassin's Trophy, that's why I only run 3 in the black-green version. It might be correct to only run 3 in the Whir version as well. I'm not sure. Glimmer Voids, of course, are not great in multiples. Duress isn't so great either, but these are at least still 50% or above win rates. A small sample size for the Duress. Yeah. Let's see. For additional data points, yeah, 2 or 3 lands is typically the best. If we're keeping a 4 or 5 lander, that usually means that the rest of the hand is really good. Lantern and Mill Rock doesn't seem to make too much of a difference if we have a Lantern and a Mill Rock. Still no data on Symmetry. Bobble and Mill Rock, there's a slight increase if you have a Bobble and Mill Rock in the opening hand. Nothing on Symmetry. Of course, keeping 7 is the best, and it goes down from there. Sideboard cards in opening hand. This is only post-board games, by the way. It only looks at post-board games right here. So it does look like having more sideboard cards in the opener is very good for us. Let's see. Play and draw, we're slightly better on the play. I mean, that can be expected. Having discard spells in the opening hand is good. 1 or 2 is good. Post-board is even better because the opponent's going to be bringing in sideboard cards. And then we have what I call the horsemen, the 4 horsemen. So the 4 horsemen are of a good opening hand is, do you have bridge? Do you have discard? Do you have saga? And do you have a mill rock and a bauble together? If you have some combination of those and still have 2 to 3 lands, then that's usually a pretty good opening hand. And so I was comparing each of the tutor or dig spells with the horseman. Of course, it's always better with 1. The Whir's got slightly better numbers, but a much smaller sample size. I worry about the mana base for that. And then for the no turn 1 colored land, that means I'm not including Glimmer Void or Spire, but it still does well if you have a discard with Glimmer Void and Spire. I think that might largely be due to older data, or a lot where we were running lots of Glimmer Voids and Spires before I started going over to the fetch mana base. For our matchup statistics, doing pretty good. Let's see. Amulet Titan, we're not doing great, but that might change. I got to play a couple games in paper at my one of the local gaming stores with my newest list with the fetches and the Terra Sunders, and I ended up winning. So that's good, promising. Burn, I think, largely has to do with whether or not you get a leyline in the opener. Cascade Beatings doesn't exist anymore. Coffers, we're doing pretty good. Haven't played Creativity in a while. Zoo, we're doing good. Grixis Control has typically been a hard matchup. It continues to be. Haven't played Hammer Time or Hardened Scales in a while, but those are still good matchups. Living End's pretty good. Merfolk, usually good. Mill was almost unwinnable, but now it's severely turned around now that we're moving to the 1 Emrakul in the side game plan. Now, post-board, it completely turns the matchup around. Murktide's good. This is pre-ban on Scam. Rhinos is good. This is current Scam. Small sample size, though, and a lot of quitters. Tron, bad, of course. Mono Blue Tron, not great. And then Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth was really bad, but ever since we moved to Cursed Totems, these numbers have been steadily going up. So I expect Now it feels like a really, really good matchup, so I expect these numbers to continue to rise. Um, yeah. Let's see. We have a ton of games now. Let's see how many we got. 800 and really it's 844 because the first row is the header row. So 844 games of data. Um, yeah, and pretty good win rates overall. Mostly the data is coming from Build-A-Boss, Ilyako, and me. Um, yeah, okay. So if you were to want to pick up Lantern, this is the list that I would suggest at this point. And it looks like we're still pretty well positioned against the metagame.